Don't you just love when I forget to hit the record button? It's my favorite thing. So for those of you tuning into the VOD, there was just an hour there where I told a very touching story about uh, us trying to overcome the end of the world. We've been trying to outrun fate, and we were determined to be the best. And we ran out of space to run, and fate caught up with us, despite our desire to run with the punches. Uh, we had to cut off our own hand in a world that no longer made sense to try and find some kind of belonging with our rival because they hadn't trusted us anymore. Because we'd betrayed them 1,000, 100, 1,000,000 times. But unfortunately, that story is completely lost to time. Because I have large brain, and I don't press buttons sometimes. I was thinking, oh yeah, I'll wait to press the start recording button until I have actually started doing things, and I'm not just rattling on about the starting soon, right? I forgot to press the button. So yet again, one of our lovely tabletop stories has been lost to the sands of time, unless someone was recording. At anyone who was recording, please reach out to me. But now that we've lost one story of a rivalry to the sands of time, let us perhaps tell another. This game gives us plenty of time. You know, I'm only halfway through what I'm doing here. Sorry, Magnus. No, go. There we go. Gunka Scott. Good boy. Magnus has decided to join us. He wanted to tell a tale about his rivalry. Yeah. You have sibling rivalry with your brother? He's like, well, I got sibling everything else. He does. They're really typical siblings. Library will occasionally, while Magnus is asleep, try to clean Magnus. And if he's asleep enough, he won't notice, and he'll sit there as cats do. And then as soon as he wakes up and notices, he's like, no, stop that, bat. And it goes both ways. There was a paper cut stream where that was happening. But it goes both ways. They love each other and they don't want to let each other know it. Don't you? You're like, don't tell everybody that, Dad. Ugh, really? Blinking light, everybody. I hope it doesn't show up on stream. But it bothers me. What do you think? You want to sit right here? Okay, let's tell another story. How many years is it after we've patched things up with our rival? No idea. It's not clear. We lose track of time, jumping from skill to skill to skill, trying to be the best, with our rival mostly understanding now that this is kind of how we're showing our love for them. You know, we're trying to give them something to aspire to, and vice versa. It's all friendly competition. Until it isn't. What skill were we working on at the time? It's all lost now. The world, once again, we are in... Where are we? That's a good question. Where are we before the world stops making sense? I think we are in a huge, empty sparring room. There are, you know, as many fencing lanes as there can be in a sensibly sized room, and it amazes us that we took this long to finally pick up swordsmanship. You know, it's the stereotypical skill for someone who's lived a life that we have. You know, avoiding the end of the world, avoiding a prophecy, and we're finally getting around to swordsmanship. We think we're safe. We've avoided the prophecy for this long. And we already saved the world once by reaching out to the rival, right? Everything's fine. We can definitely pick up sword work. It's definitely going to be all right. Till it isn't. We are sparring. We've reached, the rival and I have reached some level of sword skill that puts us above the average layman. Is it mastery? No. That would take too long. But competency? Absolutely. And after one particularly harsh parry, I reach out. I strike a blow a little too enthusiastically in trying to gain one more point to defeat the rival. And it slices through the protective gear they're wearing. Was that sword sharp when we started this duel? No. But fate has other ideas. We slice through whatever armor they're wearing, and as the blood from this slice across their chest hits the floor, the entire floor ripples, like it's water on a pond. And we look around, and we look up at our rival, and they look wounded. Not just physically, but also emotionally. And we know that the time has come for another duel in the halls of fate. Sorry, Magnus. Okay, kitty. I love you very much. I think you need to not be sitting on my lap, because you will get swishled when I go to reach for something. Switch butt. Come on. Thank you for your time. Okay, so let's set up again. We draw 5 cards from the bottom of the deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll flip the first one. The Ace of Diamonds. We'll address that in a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are our tools to address fate in its hall. This time... Okay. The Ace of Diamonds. The fate draws out the worst from you. A fate of stagnation and paralysis. A fate of waste and destruction obstructs you. And so in bringing out the worst of us, we bring out the trash talk that we had left behind so many years ago. It brings out the worst in us. We start gloating. We start boasting them. We're telling our rival, it's just a little blood. That won't hurt. I cut off my own hand to be with you. You think a single slice across the chest is going to stop me? And we dash forward at them, ready to strike once more. And we'll play the 8 of Spades. Yeah. No, wait, I lied. We will play Synchronize. Discard a card from your... Or wait, no. Exceed. Discard any number of cards with the same value and remove the same amount of face-down fate cards. If you would remove fate cards that result in less than one face-down fate card, choose which one remains and discard the rest, and resolve fate when things line up. So we're going to play 2 4s on top of this ace. So, when your destiny is above the card's value, fate intervenes again. Draw a new fate card from the bottom of the deck and place it face down on either side of the line of fate. So we remove 2 fate cards from our exceed. And how do we exceed the thing? Wait, we're removing face down fate cards. So this fate card remains in play, but we remove 2 face down fate cards. So we exceed our meager skill right now. we know that they might be better than us, but we're stronger. We picked up weightlifting earlier than them. We've been training harder. And so we exceed their ability to block. They bring up their sword, flat side up to stop us from slashing again. And we exceed what they can do. We strike them, and the force blows them backwards. It's genuinely anime-esque. They slide backwards. They've barely gotten to their feet, and they slide backwards several feet as the blow from our sword makes the metal ring. We can still see it resonating as they finish sliding backwards, and the rival looks up at us, and they spit at us. You're doing this again? And our voice catches in our throat. We don't have anything to say. There's just battle. So let's flip another fate card here, just for fun. I'm gonna do that every turn. I might have missed that in the, during gameplay, you perform one action. At the end of your turn, choose and reveal a face-down fate card. Okay, yeah, I was supposed to do that. Okay, so the 10 of diamonds. They have looked up. There's only battle. The waste and destruction obstructs our path. Failure cascades as misfortunes mount. So they say this to us, and we simply nod. We are doing this again. Fate has been our companion throughout all of this. The rival should have seen it coming. And we descend on them sword in hand. But that one strike took a lot more out of us than we were certainly ever expecting to have taken from us from one swing. Maybe it's the way that the world has stopped making sense. Maybe our rival has a better handle on what has happened to the world, but we swing and they're gone. There is nothing there. There is a faint ripple of where they were. The floor ripples beneath our feet. We look down and our stance is completely incorrect. And we barely lean out of the way as the rival comes down over us with a massive overhead swing. Their stance perfect, fire in their eyes. And we know they're willing to end this however is necessary. Whether that's meeting some unknown tally of points or chopping us to pieces. They're sick of this. We've done our best to restrain ourselves, but no more. Both of us are fighting at maximum ability. Okay, let's look at our actions here. Play a card from your hand and place it sideways between two unresolved fate cards. Attempt to resolve both fate cards by adding the values of any destiny cards together, including the played card. Okay, so we're going to connect. We're going to try to connect to them while we're... So I'm going to lay this... by adding the values of any destiny cards together. So we need to exceed 10 here. So we try to reach out to them. And it just barely works. We try to reach out to them physically, and it doesn't work. They strike at our extended hand, and we just barely get our hand out of the way. Success breeds good fortune. Okay, that's what we're working with here. We recognize the need for transformation, and environment stabilizes our soul. We recognize not only that we need to stop this before we hurt each other, but that we need to work together. The world has stopped making sense again. The world is ending. We need to do something about this. We can't be fighting. And so, despite the difficulty of attempting to speak while fencing, we open our mouth and begin to implore them. Come on, man. We shouldn't be doing this. We've watched the world nearly end one more time. Why are we doing this again? What does it gain us? Why? Just because I miscalculated? Because I was a fool? Because I gave in to my baser instincts? How many times have I done this? You should know better than to take me seriously when I'm this high on adrenaline. And for a moment, it almost seems like they believe us. The tension goes out of their shoulders, and then it tightens again. Whatever fate wants from us here, it's going to take a little more than that. And our swords are constantly clashing. It sounds like a blacksmith has entered the room and is forging something new. And we realize that it is the final fate. That if we don't end this now, somehow, that we're going to lose. We thought we were better, and we knew we were wrong. Reveal the last face-down fate card. We knew we were wrong. The 9 of Clubs. Yeah, our arrogance and ignorance clouds our path. Exactly. We thought we were better than our rival, for once. That we were not on even footing. And we completely misread the situation. Just entirely upside down. We thought we were something magnificent. We were completely incorrect. And we take a deep breath. And once again shout. This is my final turn. I claim my destiny with this card. Draw! 5 of Clubs. How does this resolve? So the chains of fate. Or wait, no. We are forging a path using our reckless ability. Below the card's value, leave any destiny cards and the fate card on the line of fate. The fate is considered unresolved, may be attempted again. Does that count for final? So this leaves the situation unresolved. I like that. We try, we struggle, we draw on every single piece of knowledge in our arsenal to try and struggle and undermine the skill that the rival has over us. Every dirty trick we can think of, scrape sand off the floor to throw in their eyes. Try anything to disarm them, to get things down to hand, because we've always been a better hand-to-hand fighter than them. But the rival knows better. They know that as long as we both have swords in our hands, that they can return anything we can do, tit for tat, and even more. And we're trying and failing to talk them out of this. Like, please, listen to me. We don't know what'll happen if things don't work out here. Last time we barely managed to save the world. Look at the world around us. Everything is going to pieces. Do you see what's happening? There's nothing here but us. And this is an endless plane of battle. Do you know what's going to happen if I lose? And as we're about to say lose, they strike us across the chest. in an exact mirror of the cut that we gave them. And we stumble backwards in shock. We weren't expecting that to happen. And despite our failure, despite our misunderstanding of the situation, we look down at this blood barely coming out of us. It's not a deep cut or anything. We look concerned, confused, misunderstanding of what's going on. And one drop of blood hits the floor, and the floor ripples once more. The rival flourishes their sword, bows at us, and stalks past us, back out the door. The world has returned to the state that it should be, but we've lost the one constant in our life. They've walked out, probably for the last time. Sure, they've left before, but not like this. Not when the world was on the line. They weren't willing to challenge what is safe, what is possible, just to beat us. And now they're gone. We don't have them anymore. And that breaks us. Well, that was depressing. We have time for one more, probably, at the speed I'm doing these. Let's play from the perspective of the rival. The rival is the opposite of our previous character. And I like that a lot. Why do you confront fate? Rather than aiming to be the best, someone counts on us, and I must succeed. No, wait, even better. I desire to change after a series of misfortunes and tragedies. That's why we confront fate. We desire to change after failure after failure. After failure and tragedy. Of course it hurt us to walk out on the one person that's been a constant in our lives. The one person that's been a perfect rival for everything we've wanted to do. And so now we're desiring change. We've lost so many times. Now that we've won, we want to be someone different. I think, what is your style when you duel against fate? I think the most applicable here is malicious and devious. What is your style when you duel against fate? Malicious and devious. I've been hurt, and now I hurt others. How did we get into this predicament? I've defied fate and now it's finally caught up to me. No, that was our rival. I've made a vow of enmity against fate and followed its trail. No, fate has manipulated and directed me all along. I think either fate has manipulated me and directed me all along, or fate and I have always been together, but now we must part. I feel like fate and I have always been together, but now we must part is the most apt here, Because we've just parted from our rival, our lifelong rival, our fated rival. Fate and I have always been together, but now we must part. Where has fate brought you? A familiar place from my past, but changed and not for the better. A mysterious realm where time and space are twisted and warped. A moving vehicle in somewhere, and the controls are broken. A countdown ticks away, and soon the facility will be destroyed. Or at a monument, ancient and futuristic, where one false step could be the end. I think a moving vehicle, let's say a plane, the rival duelist. The rival duelist, after leaving the fencing arena, not even looking back to see whether the world has returned to normal, hops a flight, books a flight immediately. And unfortunately for the rival, trying to get away from their partner fate, I like the idea of the partner from the rival's perspective being named Fate. Is that short for something? Maybe I'll come up with something clever. But the rival, us, we've always known our partner as Fate. Sure, they have a name longer than Fate, but we've always addressed them by Fate. And unfortunately for us, as we're trying to get away from Fate, Fate knows we've had a shared bank account for a few years. And so Fate knows when we buy a plane ticket, and they buy the same a ticket for the same plane. And they're not planning on approaching us on the plane until things go wrong. For whatever reason, maybe someone's using their phone when they shouldn't be. Maybe someone missed something during a routine maintenance check. Maybe even it's just capital F Fate rather than our partner Fate, causing the tension to rise so that we pay attention to our rival. But for whatever reason, as we finally reach cruising altitude, the captain comes on over the intercom and makes it clear what's happening. Passengers, I hate to ruin your tranquility now that we've reached our cruising altitude so recently, but someone decided to plug in their phone into the main console here and did not run any scans, and the co-pilot distantly is like, I promise it wasn't me. Long story short, regardless of whose fault it is, Jim, long story short, we have no control of this plane. The autopilot is taking us somewhere. We're not sure where. We'll be doing our best to get things under control up here, but please remain calm. And to their credit, most of the people in the plane do remain calm. Shockingly. Most of the people are like, oh yeah, it's not a plane crash, we just don't know where we're going. I'll just have to call the airline when I land, it's fine. I can get to where I need to be. There's a few people who are a little distressed, they're a little upset. They were needing to get somewhere for the birth of their child or something. You know, something important that they needed to be there at a specific time. But one person who isn't calm is fate. They stand abruptly, suddenly, and despite the flight attendants doing their best to try and calm them, they march on over to us and sit down next to us. Of course the seat next to us had to be empty. Why wouldn't it be? Let's see how the card affects our current predicament. The 9 of diamonds. A fate of stagnation and paralysis, a fate of waste and destruction obstructs you. It is not only our tranquility of the empty plain seat next to us that is destroyed. It is the illusion of the idea that we can get away from fate, our partner fate. We had hoped that the world had ended a second time, and this was far from the only time that we had run away after a disagreement. Fate would bring us together after a little while, give us some time to cool down. And that idea shatters as soon as fate sits down next to us. They are staring at us, wordlessly, which is a shock. Usually they have so much to say, but they're just looking at us. They seem sorry, but heck, that might just be the peril talking. So I'm going to play the Jack of Diamonds, just directly, to remove this card. So the Jack of Diamonds allows us to employ ingenuity in the face of our adversity by experiencing growth, passing judgment on a decision, or protecting things important to us. And of course, fate's important to us. At the card's value, remove both of them from them. Okay. So we just removed those two cards outright. Okay, so of course fate's important to us. Sure, we were just fighting, we were just dueling. But that doesn't make them any less important to us. It's always been vital for us to be able to have them to push us as much as we've been pushing them. And, you know, that's something we've been trying to address all of our life. And without saying a word, because we don't like to talk a lot, after all, we instead pull a deck of tarot cards out of our bag. We've always been fond of divination, especially after a standard deck of playing cards stopped the world from ending the first time. So we set the deck of tarot cards on the tray table in front of us, and we look over at fate and gesture at it, as if to say, go ahead, draw. Let the cards determine what our life might be if we get out of this plane crash. And fate, what does fate do? The trickery and misdirection deter your path. So, fate reaches out toward the deck of tarot cards, their hand twitching with concern. They don't know if this is some kind of counterplay. They don't know what's happening. They don't know why we've set a deck of tarot cards. We tried to make it clear, but there's only so much clarity you can introduce without words. And fate seems to draw a card. The deck of tarot cards gets slightly smaller, but instead of actually playing the cards onto the table, the cards are just gone. Fate's always been fond of card tricks after that first night of the world hanging in the balance with our duel. And you see that those 4, 5, 10 cards they drew, it's not clear. But those cards are just gone. And they look back at you with a piercing look. It's their turn to be quiet. And they look back at us, and we heave a heavy sigh. Is there another... Is there another one that doesn't resolve the fate card? Discard any number of cards with the same value. And no, can't do that one. Okay, let's synchronize. Discard a card from your hand and draw 2 cards from the Destiny deck. You must immediately attempt to resolve a fate card. Narrate how you resolve fate with precise timing. So I'm going to discard these 2 cards, and I'm going to draw 2 more cards. And we heave a heavy sigh. And we look at fate. And we say, you know, precisely as the last card settles wherever it is, we smile at them and say, I know that trick. You've got a card in your sleeve. I don't know where you hid the rest of them, but I watched the tail end of that last card slip into your sleeve. So let's... Yeah, you express your emotions, you elicit vulnerability to build a connection, and your innocence is pure and steadfast. So, despite our want to be biting, to be angry, to be upset with fate, we simply say something when for so long we've been trying to misdirect, to make things clear without speaking a word. We actually open our mouth and we call back to a time when we were happier with fate. When we were first learning these card tricks, we always had a pretty keen eye for detail. And so it didn't take us long to learn exactly why the card trick worked, where the card went. And Fate smiles just a little bit at us. Because for once, we're the one reaching out. They've done so much to reach out to us, and now it's our turn to try and mend fences. Alright, I see someone in chat, not to call you out, but if you would so chosen, you may direct fate for us, my friend. Ooh, crunch. Would you like card 1, card 2, or card 3? What fate will you provide us? And what will fate, capital F fate, that is changing our life, direct our partner, fate, to do? Excuse me, I should mute the mic while I'm drinking, because I drink very loudly. Alas, the iron hand of time grinds on despite my best efforts to stop it. And so fate decides on its own. What comes next for us? The Eight of Diamonds. The chains of fate continually seek to bind us by our stagnation and paralysis. A fate of waste and destruction obstructs us. And despite the momentary smile that our partner fate had given us at that callback to the way that we had spent so much time together, that we didn't want to throw that away. They pull the one card out of their sleeve, and they look us in the eyes, and they rip it in half, and throw the pieces over their shoulder. Never mind how expensive this tarot deck was. That hurts. That is genuinely crushing. They didn't say a word. They're staring at us like we would stare at them so many times before. They're simply staring at us. They're trying. It's almost like they are begging us. See if you can find another card. What? Do you think that's the best I can do? I can be better than you. And despite our best efforts, we can't bite our tongue. Sure, we're in public. We don't want to make a scene, but that hurt. And so we look at them and we say, what? It's bad enough you struck me across the chest. I might still be bleeding. Bad enough. You want to shove the pieces of that card in the wound? You want to make it even worse? Huh? What do you think you're doing? You tempting fate? You want the world to end again? Let's make things worse. Come on, then. And we goad them. And they look wounded. And it feels great for just a moment. Until we see that they're holding back tears. They've never been good at dealing with that sort of... they've never been good at dealing with getting some trash talk thrown back in their face. And they're resisting the urge to sob. The people sitting around us in the plane heard this happen and are signaling a flight attendant to come over. You know, someone is holding up these two chunks of a tarot card and looking at the flight attendant and looking at us and kind of signing that maybe there's some kind of domestic dispute happening, and the flight attendant is approaching us. Failure is mounting. Things are getting tense. Things are getting dangerous. You have no idea. Neither of us know. Neither us nor fate knows what will happen if they, tell us to quit making a scene, resolve things. Are they going to arrest us when the plane lands? Do they think we're the reason the plane is currently on autopilot to goodness knows where? And both you and fate start sweating bullets a little bit. It's not exactly as tense as the end of the world, but it certainly isn't good. And we, what do we do? We try to... We again toss two cards into the wind. We try to synchronize things at the exactly perfect moment. You must immediately attempt to resolve a fate card. So I think I'm going to resolve the Eight of Diamonds with the Ace of Clubs. We've always been... we've been trying to be much more much more like our partner Fate here, just recently, trying to be a little more reckless. And we stand very suddenly and step over Fate to meet the flight attendant a little further away from Fate himself. And we look the flight attendant in the eyes and kind of put our hands out, and we're being much more talkative than we normally do when we, try to resolve things calmly by meeting the flight attendant before they get too involved in the situation. We're like, hey, I know what that looks like. I know someone behind us is signaling like this is some kind of domestic dispute. Like we know, like something is going to happen. I understand what everything looks like. Please, please. The the chopping off of the tarot deck card. It's just a running joke between us. Uh, we've we've been dealt not the best hand, if you will, and we spread out. We suddenly have a spread of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We suddenly have a spread of 5 cards in our hand, drawing on a little bit of that illusionist flair that we picked up trying to best fate at things. And we say to the flight attendant, we have a joke about trying to beat the odds and play our best hand here against fate. Tarot cards, divine fate. It's a fun little running joke that my partner and I have. And at some point along the line, we said we wanted to defy fate, and the best way that we could get that across is ripping up one of the cards. I know what it looks like. Please, just let us talk this out for a little bit. And the flight attendant looks concerned, confused. They have no idea why things are the way they are. And they're obviously pretty skittish because of the plane potentially going somewhere, anywhere they don't know. And they look at us and they sigh. And they say, listen, you have 5 minutes. I'm going to come check on the both of you. If you're not behaving by then, if you can't get your partner there to return to their seat by that time, I don't know. We'll have to figure out what resolution looks like then. But I'll give you some time, just like you asked. I'm gonna go deal with that passenger. And over the flight attendant's shoulder, the camera refocuses a little bit, and there is a passenger gripping the gripping the handles of the seat, vice grip tight. Their knuckles are white. They're sweating bullets. They are horrified. They've been afraid of flying, and they tried. The one time they tried to get on a flight, everything went wrong, and they're looking out the window, and internally, we're just hoping that whatever Twilight Zone type situation's going on over there, it distracts the flight attendant long enough to give us some time to resolve things. And as we sit down back next to our partner Fate, the situation shifts once more. Once again, a fate of stagnation and paralysis, a fate of waste and destruction obstructs you. Chains of fate continually seek to bind you. As we sit down heavily next to Fate, we realize that they have something to say. And we look at them quietly, as we normally do. And they look at us. And they sigh. And they say, for all of that talk you gave me about lying during that very first time the world was ending, you seem to be a pretty good liar. Is that why you've been after me like this? And we're wounded by that. That hurts. Bringing up the past like that. It always seems like when we're arguing, whether the world's ending or not, it always feels like we're throwing something at each other, back in each other's face from the past, back and forth. And before we dive back into that back and forth, we try to look at things with a positive light. We try to give fate, the benefit of the doubt. Actually, that's their name. Their name is Faith, but we misheard it as a child, and we've been calling them Fate ever since. We look at Faith in the face, and we try to give them the benefit of the doubt. We draw strength from our faith in fate. Our faith in Faith, who we know is Fate. And we once again, try to break that cycle of tit for tat. Every argument feels like a duel. We try to take a deep breath, center ourselves, and take a different approach. Not every argument needs to be this horrific duel. Not everything we need to do needs to be maximum tension rivalry. Sure, we may need to resolve things as though it is maximum tension rivalry. But not everything needs to be that way outside of a resolution. And because we have one fate card left on the table, we enter into the final phase of the game. You keep any unresolved fate cards on the table. You shuffle all but one of them, all but one of the line of fate cards back in the deck. Okay? We discard any remaining cards in our hand. That was the Queen of Diamonds, by the way. And we've set up the situation. We are doing our best to find the good in this moment, despite all of our tit-for-tat arguments with our partner Faith. And we smile at them, and we look at the cockpit of the plane and say, "This is my final turn. I claim my destiny with this card. Draw!" And we reach out suddenly to grab a tarot card from on the table. Well, that would have been much cooler if I could actually do that. Slap the card and have it come up, face up. Well, the rival does that. They do a fancy, flourish. Oh, I dropped it. They do a fancy flourish, and the tarot card comes up, face up. And it is, what's a good tarot card? What's a good tarot card? I don't know anything about tarot cards. I have made a dire mistake. You know what? It's the Fool. The Fool is laid face up, facing upward. And what little I know about the Fool tells me that it is a card that suggests new beginnings. Things changing for the better because you're willing to start over. And we look at Faith in the eyes, and we stare at them for a moment. We grab both of their hands with ours. And they're looking right back at us. They know that that phrase we just shouted means that we feel like the world's ending and we need to address that. And we look at them hand over hand, and we simply say that we want to start over. Faith sits with this for a long time. They are not sure what starting over means. And we're not sure what starting over means either. We haven't said anything either way. After saying that, we've just held their hands and looked at them. The flight attendant finally having handled the Twilight Zone experience guy over there, who's been having a real rough go of it, he seems to have calmed down at least a little bit. The flight attendant approaches us, Faith and rival, us. And she sees us hand over hand, and we're looking at each other, and we're not sure what to say. And the flight attendant says, the flight attendant, who's a little into astrology, knows a little bit of those tarot cards, looks down at the tray table in front of us and sees the Fool, and she quips, "Oh, new beginnings, huh? I take that's a good sign?" And we both kind of think about it for a second, and emotions flash across both of our faces. And we see, the sheer emotionality of the moment, and it's startling because Faith is not normally one to be doing that. Faith is one to say what they mean and mean what they say, not let whatever, not let something go unspoken in some wild chance that something will be misunderstood. And seeing that we've had that little bit of influence on our partner, Faith, we kind of smile and we look at the flight attendant and we lean on the influence that Faith has had on us, and we nod and say, "Yeah, of a sort. We're, well, we were originally, before this plane decided to go full rogue transformer," and the flight attendant smiles with a little chuckle. "Before the plane decided to go full rogue transformer, we were planning on taking a trip together to see where the future would take us. Right, Faith?" And Faith nods and pulls one of their hands away from yours and sets it on the card on the table, and heaves a sigh of relief. Things have resolved, at least for now, and almost immediately, as soon as this situation resolves between us and Faith, the captain, Faith is looking at us, about to say something, and their mouth is open. They're about to say something, and the captain comes on over the intercom again. Yeah, hi. We figured out, what kind of virus that Jim here," and Jim's like, "No, I didn't do it. It wasn't my phone. Don't tell the press this." It was definitely Jim's phone. We finally found out that Jim's phone was the one, what sort of virus Jim had on his phone. Maybe download less horrible puzzle games, Jim. Just learn to do some Sudoku, Jim. Come on, Jim. Why do you do this to me? And Jim kind of yanks the mic away from the captain and is like, "Listen, what the captain is trying to say is that we know where the plane's going again. Everybody can breathe a sigh of relief." And we do breathe a sigh of relief. We're like, "Huh? Why is it?" And at the same time as Faith, we say, "Why is it everywhere we go, the world seems like it's ending?" And Faith at the same time says to us, "Where are we going again? Are we actually going to be going on a trip?" And we both kind of look at each other and laugh and smile, and we hug each other over the plane armrests awkwardly, and we look at Faith and say, "Well, let's find out, and let's hope the world doesn't end while we're at it." That's where that story ends there. Couldn't think of a better way to close that, but this was fun. It's clearly still in development. This has been My Turn Draw. Let me pull up the link for that. My Turn Draw. So this game was in development. This game is still in development. It's version 0.5. It's meant to be very easy to play. It's meant to be very open-ended. I'm surprised. Sorry, I'm looking at the page. This is called My Turn Draw. I like it. I like it a lot. It's very fun. That's a link to the game on screen. It'll be in the description of the video.
Ooh.
I liked it a lot. I really, really enjoy these sort of. I enjoy when a solo RPG leverages a deck of cards. Just because it's a very simple way to introduce randomness into a situation that's not haha roll a dice. You know, uh you can only plan for I put this back together wrong. There are several cards not facing the correct direction. Anyway, um it's a great way to introduce randomness and semi-randomness into a situation without having to say, "Oh yeah, have this weird set of dice." Uh have this weird set of dice or roll multiple dice and have to like consult several layers of a table. That's something that I really like about these card-based games is they're like, oh yeah, you can just have generalized themes of outcomes, and it's much easier to write for because you're like to write prompts and generalize stuff for, just because then like, oh yeah, it's generally in this theme, and then specifically in this theme, the number does this. I really like it. I think Wretched and Alone does it very well. I think this game does it very well. There are several other games that I'm looking forward to playing that do it very well. Uh, I think either I needed to read the rules before I started stream, or it needs to be clearer. Needs to be clearer what's you're supposed to be doing each turn. It obviously you flip a fate card and then you play a card from your hand to further augment the story that you're telling. I think it needs to be clearer whether you know maybe suggest whether you start telling the story and then play a card to introduce a twist, or if you know play play the turn out with the cards and then say, because of the cards, this is how the story goes. There might be a suggested order that is expected from the author, and I think making that a little clearer would be better. I think genuinely my trouble with uh, the first off recording play of the game was mostly stemming from my misreading of the rules. So probably I just need to slow down and read the rules. But once I got the major game loop going, I really enjoyed this game quite a bit, actually. We will likely come back to it, just like we'll eventually come back to Archived. But I have several other solo RPGs that I am going to be playing more of later. I think that's a good note to end on. Also, one of the things that I did while the camera wasn't running, but I was streaming, was, oh no, I'm missing one card. I better count everything. And then I did count everything, and all the cards were there because I have large brain. Uh, yeah, I was a little concerned. I did not read the rules before playing this game. I usually don't give the rules any more than a basic perusal, just to not lock myself into a specific sort of story that I'm expecting. It makes it more fun to improvise, but I may change that going forward. Only not read the prompt tables. um, but I had more thoughts. There was something about like, oh yeah, remove jokers. Know what equipment you need. But I had a lot of fun playing this. I might come back to it. I might come back to it and play more directly, like a Yu-Gi-Oh style duel. Just use the characters of Yugi and Kaiba instead of just kind of archetypical main character and rival. I think it was a lot of fun to. I think it was a lot of fun to, after establishing several stories in the same timeline with the main character Faith, to approach it from the rival's perspective. There's rules for playing this two-player where another person plays the rival, which I have not read, but they seem uh, fascinating. And that's something that not a lot of solo RPGs have, is a multiplayer mode. You know, a lot of multiplayer RPGs have a solo mode, but not a lot of solo RPGs have a multiplayer mode. And I think that's really cool. That's a really neat addition. Oh, that's one of the things I was thinking of. These are short. You know, I played 3 of these in 2 hours, and maybe that's just because I wasn't feeling particularly long-winded, but 5 cards for fate and 5 cards in your hand makes for a very short short story if you're not really yarning off of each prompt and making it, you know, long-winded. Maybe include, like, I guess you could just draw more cards to have a longer, more meandering story. I mean, that's an easy hack there. I don't know if there's any other way to like make this game last a little longer. Uh, you know, I was coming into this expecting it to take, you know, one game to take all 2 hours of stream, and it took 3. So maybe give options for a longer version of the game. That's my only critique. Because I think, you know, looking over the rules again, it's actually really clear. I just was reading quickly because I was on stream. So that's my bad. But, uh, you know, potentially add the ability to have longer games. I think one thing that this has over Archived, for example, is the order in which you are reading things is the order in which things happen. It's organized in a very, it's organized in a way that allows you to just read through the book once and then play through the game top to bottom. I like that a lot. I really like the way the PDF looks. It's very satisfying to look at. Lots of primary colors that don't distract from the text. There's a couple of images of obviously Yugi and KAIBA that I really hope they have the rights to use because it really adds a lot here. It really gets across the feeling that you're aiming to evoke with these stories. Anyway, I have to be done with all my thoughts about that, but this has been my turn draw. I had a lot of fun with it, despite my inability to read rules. And we'll be back later this week with more 20,000 Leagues if you're a Paper Cuts watcher. If you're not a Paper Cuts watcher, we'll be back next Monday with another solo tabletop RPG. Let's pick one right now, actually, just for fun. What am I feeling? Okay, so I have a big list here. What is Unstuck? Is Unstuck what I think it is? Unstuck is... Okay, Unstuck is about playing a non-linear narrative through the lens of jumping through one person's timeline a bunch at once. It sounds like a lot of fun. What else is there? I definitely want to play Alone Among the Stars at some point. There's one called Artifact, which sounds like a lot of fun. It kind of takes the same approach as Archived, but you are a magic item. What else is there? Punch Card Memories actually seems really, really fun. It's about digitizing yourself and losing memories in the process. That's the type of story it tells. And I think, you know what? We'll save Artifact for another time. I may wind up just playing that one off stream, just because it focuses on magic items like D&D style. So I don't want it to turn into, haha, every other week is super insular, know my D&D setting night. But okay, my internet service provider has decided that there is no more stream. So I'm gonna have to call it a night. Let's say that we are playing Punch Card Memories next week. Before my stream spontaneously combusts. We'll be playing Punch Card Memories next week on Monday. Uh, thank you for joining me, everybody. I'm having a lot of fun with this, and feel free to reach out if you're interested in maybe trying to put together a group for like just a outright normal tabletop game that's not just me monologuing. Feel free to reach out about that. I have thoughts. Anyway, have a good week, everybody.